What if the decisions made by a president didn't just shape the future, but ultimately left an indelible mark on the very fabric of the country? Trump's presidency was filled with controversial decisions, some of which drastically changed America, often in ways that weren't immediately apparent. Stay tuned as we dive into the 10 worst decisions that changed America forever, and how these choices continue to shape our nation. Every decision a leader makes affects the lives of the people they serve. But when those decisions are miscalculated or misguided, the impact can be far-reaching. Donald Trump, during his time in office, made a series of choices that seemed to promise great things, but in reality, often resulted in division, confusion, and long-term consequences for the country. These decisions weren't just political maneuvers, they affected real people, whether through economic struggles, policy failures, or damaged international relationships. Take, for example, his decision to pull out of international agreements, his handling of the pandemic, or his approach to immigration. Each decision caused a ripple effect, leaving scars that still need to be healed. Many of the issues that emerged under his presidency didn't just impact his time in office. They've had lasting repercussions on the country's future. If these decisions aren't acknowledged or addressed, we risk repeating the same mistakes or facing the consequences for decades to come. In this video, we'll break down the 10 worst decisions Trump made, exploring their real-world consequences and why they were so impactful. So what did they mean for the economy? How did they affect public trust? And, perhaps most importantly, what can we learn from them moving forward? Oh, and before we get started, make sure you subscribe and leave your thoughts below. Number 10, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. One of the most controversial decisions of Trump's presidency was his tax reform, which was, honestly, touted as a massive win for the middle class. In reality, though, it disproportionately benefited the wealthiest Americans and large corporations while leaving the middle and lower classes with, well, pretty minimal gains. The $1.5 trillion deficit added as a result of the tax cuts actually exacerbated income inequality and left future generations with the bill. Many middle-class Americans didn't see the long-term benefits that were promised, while corporations enjoyed tax breaks and stock buybacks. So how did this tax cut affect real people? For a lot of folks, it meant stagnating wages, rising costs, and growing uncertainty about their financial futures. The immediate relief was, honestly, pretty short-lived, and now the country is grappling with an increased national debt. Was this tax cut really worth it, or was it just a short-term political win? Stay tuned, because the ramifications are far from over. When COVID-19 hit, Trump's handling of the situation became a defining moment of his presidency. From downplaying the severity of the virus to promoting misinformation, his approach left the nation struggling to contain the spread. The lack of coherent federal leadership led to states being forced to act on their own, and the public health system was overwhelmed. Real people were left to navigate a confusing and dangerous situation. The emotional toll of watching family members fall ill, losing loved ones, and struggling with economic hardships due to lockdowns was immense. Even after the vaccines were developed, there was continued misinformation, leaving a significant portion of the population hesitant to take action. How many lives could have been saved if the response had been more decisive and grounded in science? Trump's decision to pull the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement sent a dangerous signal to the world. By abandoning this international pact, he not only jeopardized global cooperation on climate change, but also, missed an opportunity to lead by example in addressing one of the most pressing issues of our time. This decision isolated the United States from global partners and undermined efforts to combat climate change. While the long-term effects of this decision are still unfolding, the immediate impact was clear: loss of global leadership and a delay in the fight against climate change. How will history view this moment, and what will be the cost of this withdrawal for future generations? The promise of building a wall between the United States and Mexico was one of Trump's most infamous campaign promises. Despite significant opposition, The wall became a symbol of his presidency. The costs, both financial and ethical, were, honestly, pretty steep. Thousands of miles of barriers were erected at an incredible expense, but the wall did little to solve the underlying issues of immigration reform or border security. The human cost in terms of families separated, children in cages, and inhumane treatment of migrants was significant. Trump's focus on a physical barrier missed the mark on addressing the deeper, systemic issues of immigration policy. Will the wall ever truly be completed, and was it worth the price? When violent white nationalist rallies erupted in Charlottesville, Virginia, back in 2017, Trump's response was to claim there were very fine people on both sides. This statement ignited outrage, as it appeared to validate the actions of white supremacists and neo-Nazis. The emotional impact of this response was deeply felt across the nation, especially among marginalized communities. It emboldened hate groups and sent a clear message that racism and violence had a place in America. The fallout from Trump's handling of this moment is still being felt in ongoing racial tensions and debates over justice. Could this moment have been a turning point for the better, or did it worsen the divide in America? In 2018, Trump disbanded the National Security Council's pandemic unit, a move that would prove disastrous when the COVID-19 pandemic hit 2 years later. This unit was specifically designed to coordinate responses to global health emergencies, and its dismantling left the United States unprepared for the crisis that unfolded. The effects were felt immediately, as health professionals struggled to control the spread of the virus. The lack of foresight in dismantling this critical department showed a failure to understand the long-term risks. How many lives could have been saved if the United States had been prepared from the start? What lessons can be learned from this failure, and will future administrations heed them? Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement wasn't his only environmental decision with dire consequences. Throughout his presidency, he rolled back numerous environmental protections, including those aimed at reducing air and water pollution, protecting public lands, and addressing climate change. The impact of these decisions was immediate for communities living near industrial areas, those dependent on natural resources, and future generations facing the effects of climate change. Trump's disregard for science in favor of short-term economic gains left many wondering whether he truly understood the importance of protecting the environment. One of the most controversial decisions during Trump's presidency was the Muslim travel ban, which targeted countries with large Muslim populations. It was framed as a national security measure, but the reality was a discriminatory policy that sparked protests and legal battles. This ban was more than a political decision. It was a personal attack on entire communities. It separated families, prevented students from attending school, and left countless individuals uncertain about their future in the United States. The emotional cost of this decision is impossible to quantify, and the lasting effects on United States foreign policy are still being felt today. Could this be a defining moment in Trump's legacy? The impeachment of Donald Trump marked the first time in United States history that a president was impeached twice. The charges, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, stemmed from his dealings with Ukraine, where he was accused of withholding military aid to pressure the country to investigate a political rival. While Trump was acquitted both times, the implications of his actions have reverberated throughout American politics. The emotional impact on the public was significant, as it further deepened the partisan divide in the country. Was this a moment of overreach by Congress, or was it a sign that no one is above the law? How will history judge Trump's actions here? The way Trump handled the COVID-19 pandemic stands as one of the worst decisions of his presidency. From downplaying the severity of the virus early on to providing contradictory statements, Trump's response failed to address the immediate dangers of the virus. The consequences of his delayed and confused response were devastating, leading to hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths. His refusal to implement a national strategy for containment left states to fend for themselves, causing a patchwork of responses and overwhelming local healthcare systems. Families across the United States lost loved ones, and honestly, the economic toll has been staggering. Could the outcome have been different if the response had been more coordinated and decisive? From the disastrous handling of COVID-19 to the controversial Muslim ban, Trump's decisions have had far-reaching impacts on the United States. Whether it was his approach to foreign relations, environmental issues, or civil rights, each decision seemed to create more division and hardship for many Americans. The fallout from these policies is still unfolding, and it's uncertain how long it will take to undo the damage. What do you think about the future of these issues? Let us know in the comments. Which of these decisions do you think had the most lasting impact, and which will continue to shape America's future? If you found this video insightful, make sure to subscribe for more content and share it with anyone who needs to see this. Don't forget to click on the bell icon for updates on our next videos.